morning, good afternoon, good evening. Zimbabwe's Constitution Amendment number 3 continues to dominate the social media. Let me say from the outset that Amendment number 3 is a decoy. The opposition and many people have taken it up because they cannot fight on the real issue they would want to fight about. It's ring-fenced. It's protected. It's a no-go area. This amendment would not even be in place. We will not be talking about this amendment, much less about ZANU-PF itself, if the opposition had implemented the democratic reforms necessary to end the ZANU-PF one-party dictatorship. That is at the heart of it. They had the opportunity to do so. They failed to do so in the last 26 years, including the 5 years in the GNU. So the opposition find themselves in a situation where they cannot talk about implementing reforms and making sure elections are free, fair, and credible. And so they've got to go for whatever other issues they're allowed by the regime to talk about. And in this particular case, it's amendment number 3. ZANU-PF itself is having problems trying to give rational explanation why this amendment is necessary. I'll just play a video clip of the Minister of Parliament and Legal and Parliamentary Affairs trying to explain why the nation needs amendment number 3.
The 2008 one, the rerun. Very toxic. Direct. If you look at 2018, the demonstrations and the shootings, it had nothing to do with the MPs in Harare. Nobody cared about the MPs in Harare. It was direct presidential election. Nobody even cared that ZANU-PF were 2/3. They were fighting that you stole our election, but in parliament, ZANU-PF had a majority. You stole our election. So we looked at this and said, we are told that Botswana is a model of democracy. They don't have direct elections. Even in South Africa. Even the scenario that happened in 2008, for instance, when we were doing our studies to say, how do we implement to the book what the resolution said, but translating it to an operative document that satisfies the tenets of government. We looked at the 2008 elections and we said, if we didn't have direct elections, we would have avoided what happened in the rerun. If I was in ZANU-PF, then I would negotiate with Welsh and say, let's form a government. In the same mold that Syria did in South Africa. You went to bed with DA and they formed a government. Nobody died. So they will tell you that we want people to die by having a direct election. That's what they are saying. They are not concerned about people. They may lie. We are Africans, one. We never had elections. We went to war to liberate ourselves so that Atirambi's will first. Atirambi's will minja yedu yanga yatorwa anyway. So that we if you listen to Tongo's speech, he says, I don't care whether I'm on upper echelons. All I want, I'm dying, is for my child to sit together and be equals. That was the message. So mchavanzwa maovheti akanyuka paindependence vakuenda mabhesi vamwe vacho vachitaura kuti aiwa universal suffrage, one man one vote yakauya 1980. So I just wanted to clear that, so that when you ask them questions, they answer you. How where did they learn about universal suffrage? If they say England, you say, but England, they vote for the MPs, they propose a prime minister, the monarch, the King Charles, who endorsed. In America, it's worse. I don't even understand the electoral college system. It's a thieving electoral college system. Is ever since we introduced the direct elections, there was toxicity around one individual.
Ben, welcome to the program.
Good day to you and good day to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. As Zimbabweans, we have been really, really slow to understand what is really going on and what is actually driving all these amendments and everything. For me, the writing is on the wall for ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF has been warned. Stop this problem of rigging elections. Stop disputed elections. Your elections are not constitutional. Your elections do not meet international standards. That was the message, and that is the message. All this that they're now trying to do is to now try and cover up that report and the reports that were given.
Sorry about that. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's what it comes down to. They cannot continue rigging elections because the world, is particularly SADC itself, has been giving ZANU-PF pressure. Stop rigging elections. Your elections are not transparent. Your elections are not constitutional. That was the message, and that is the message today. But unfortunately, Zimbabweans do not seem to see this message. Rather, they would want to just continue participating in rigged elections. They really don't mind. They have read the report. They have spoken about the report. But they have not even touched anything about the recommendations and what that report goes on to say, because those are the recommendations. So it's very, very disappointing that, you know, the international community is giving so much pressure to help us out. But we ourselves are the ones that are refusing that help at every turn.
Well, if the truth be told, ever since the country's independence, we are dealing with here a regime that believes that they have the divine right to rule. ZANU-PF inofana kutonga kusvika madhongi amera nyanga. Here is VP Chiwenga emphasizing that very point.
kana zani ichitonga ZANU-PF ichitonga kusvikira madhonga anenge amera nyanga kana mutemo wacho futi tinochinja wakaramba achiita nharo toti ndo watinoda kusvikira amen.
That is at the heart of our problem. We have a regime that has always believed that they have the divine right to rule. Yes, it wasn't only VP Chwenga who has said that. Many others have said it. They don't say it out. This amendment was not prefixed by ZANU-PF Chatonga kusvika madhonga amera nyanga, but that is what we are heading. That is where we are heading. This whole point of presidential elections have become very toxic. It's nonsense. The toxin has come out because the election process has never been free, fair, and credible. That has been the problem. And Ziambe there was talking about 2018, how after the election there were people being shot in the street. Who was doing the shooting? It was ZANU-PF. In a recent interview, Jealous Mawarire has revealed that 2018 elections were rigged. Mnangagwa got 32%. And the ZANU-PF machinery had to kick in to get him over the line. And when people protested that the elections were not free, fair, and credible, they stepped in with guns, shoot to kill. It's amazing how the people who are responsible for the violence are now turning around and pretending that the victim are the ones who are responsible for the violence. The election process has been made toxic, not by the opposition, not by the ordinary people, but by ZANU-PF, because the regime believes they have the divine right to rule and will do anything, including changing the constitution to suit themselves, including even shooting people to kill, just to retain their iron grip on power. That is what we are talking about here.
It all comes down to what I was saying, where our election process is not free, fair, and credible. And rightfully, the international community has said it as it is. I mean, look, you're right to say, give the example of 2018, where the elections were rigged. But I would want to use the 2008 election, where the people expressed their will, and ZANU-PF did concede a defeat, that they didn't win that election. But after that election, they went on a spree, killing spree, hunting people down, beating people up. It was ZANU-PF. So you cannot then say it was toxic. No, you were toxic. Because you were a bad loser. So you cannot then say, because you're a bad loser, the whole sport is bad. You're like, during our childhood, the owner of the ball, if his team is losing, he'll pick up his ball and walk away with it. That is ZANU-PF. They have been warned. They did not warn the people. They warned them. Stop rigging elections. Stop violating the constitution, because your elections are not measuring up to the said constitution. That is the message. Now, to me, I really don't understand how many Zimbabweans out there, including the so-called educated, the so-called intellectuals, miss this. Everything that is happening in Zimbabwe right now is a product of rigged elections. And unless we fix that problem, we are going to be blundering from pillar to post. Even if you have, this whole amendment come through, ZANU-PF is just looking for another way to rig election. We have to look at the primary cause. Why are we a failed state? Why are we failing, to have free, fair, and credible election? And once we figure that out, we can finally end our curse. We may want to protect the constitution now, but even if we protect it from 2020, from 2030, 2028 is going to be the same story. ZANU-PF will rig that election and get away with it.
I'd like to play a video clip of former VP Joyce Mujuru admitting that ZANU-PF has been rigging elections.
Zvandandisingazive ndizvozvo zvekuti identity card inopiwa vanhu vakawanda vopiwa nhamba dzakasiyana. Iyo rwendo runo zvanyatsobudisa pachena vaisenzeswa kuita izvozvo kubirizira musarudzo. One constituency, vadzikiti, one constituency inobudisa ma-anomalies anokwana zviuru zviviri 2,000. And handifungi kuti vanyatsoita thorough job, there could be more. Saka chindiudzai 2,000 times 210 constituencies. Vakomana makaita mental arithmetic. Ichi iyoyo chiuzai macalculator mundishedzere nhamba. Kuti 420,000 ndakudarika ika inini ndakaita mental arithmetic. 420,000. Munhu ukanzi wawina ne 420,000 inga vamwe vanopinda wani muparamendi nemavhoti 15. Wadarikawo wawadya ne15. Rimwe gore takanetsana neconstituency yasekeramai kumarondera ine mavhoti yanga asingambosvika 20 tichiti wadya munhu weMDC. Saka muri kuona kushata kwazviri kuita zvisina kunaka zvasvitsa nhasi vana vedu kuti tavakanganisa upenyu hwavo. Ndinotaura vana chete asi kwaisisi vakuru vadzikiti hatina chatiri kusevha handinai. Kana if you look at me handina masavings handina, let alone mwana anosevha chii. Saka ndo zvatiri kufunda izvo zvokuti kana yangu achiti vhoti iri free and fair ndofunga navo vaakunyarawo havasanyare zvavo kuwithdraw that statement ye-free and fair. Ngavangoti tanga tisingazive taifunga kuti zviri correct sezvaingoita wana mai mujuru kuti kwanga kuine izvozvo zvema-id cards ane ww izvi tatisingazvizive. Kana neniwo ndakutonyara kuti ndainge ndichiitika ndakanga ndiriko ikoko kuchiitika zvinhu zvakadai. Aiwa unosvikawo paunonyara veduwe kuti my god chokwadi ndakanga ndiri musaga sekitsi nokuti ini ndaingoziva zvishoma. Gambira kutsi kwesadza kune usavi isi taingotemura tichifunga kuti ndo manakira aro sadza. Abi edu vakanga vakatoita kutaura pachikoro kuti abi edu vanga vakatopfimbika zvavanga vakapfimbika ndo zvaakufonyorwa. Muchiziva kuti midzimu yeZimbabwe wauda chokwadi chibude pachena. Saka zviya zvokuti hanzi chichi izvi zvizvi zvaane midzimu yevaridzi vakaona vana vavo vachiitwa zvipiriso zvekusunungura nyika. So let's take that very serious. Hakuna ZEC. Isu tiri kuti ZEC haifanire kunge ichitongwa, ngainge yakazvimiririra. Nokuti ZEC ikanzi iri pasi pehurumende, tiri kuziva kuti ZANU iri kutadza kuisa pachena kuti zvepolitics ndezvizvi, zvehurumende ndezvizvi. ZANU yatora zvepolitics zvehurumende yambandikira. Kana iri ZEC ngaimire seZEC. Kana ine zvaino X ainofanira kunge ichitevedza anopasiswa muparliament, ndo zvatange takamirira ese mapoliticians kupasisa maX iwayo, mitemo iyoyo, kwete kuzoiteerera futi takuzoiudza kuti nhingi nanhingi ndovatoda kuti vashande imomo vazoita zvananikuvu izvokuzoona mazita 10 akubuda. Zvinonyadza izvo. Kanyadza kunge bheni rokupfuwa.
The truth of the matter is, the rigging will not stop. What ZANU-PF is proposing to do with this amendment number 3 is isolating the president so that he is not involved in the day-to-day rigging that Mamjuro was talking about there. His election results will never be challenged, because what they're doing now is saying, okay, Parliament will have their own election. And it is the MPs, the elected officials then, or the Parliament as a body that will elect the president. And we already know that ZANU-PF has got built-in majority in Parliament. For one thing, it has got the chiefs who are nominated by the president. And amendment number 3 is talking of the president being able to nominate senators. So it will have a built-in majority. All it has got to do is then rig a few more seats of the elected officials to top up. And it is then Parliament that will elect the president. The process of electing the president will be clean, free, fair, credible, and transparent, so that the president is seen as clean. Even if some of the elected officials rigged their respective election, that will be another matter. The president will not be touched. That is the essence of this amendment number 3. The case of rigged elections will not go away. It's just that the president himself will now be clean, squeaky clean. And that is what the regime is trying to achieve here.
It's, I really don't understand why a lot of Zimbabweans out there just cannot seem to understand. You put it across so beautifully and so simple. This is just a way to sanitize an already flawed, election process. ZANU-PF has been told and has been warned by the international community, you cannot continue with disputed and rigging elections. They have been warned. So now it's it's now very difficult to continue doing this, especially the presidential, results and election. Now this is why they want to get rid of it, completely, and then you can battle it out at the small, at the smaller, constituencies and so forth. Thus the president does not get the label that he currently carries, because he is illegitimate and he knows that. So they would want that tag removed, because it is not his fault he was elected by parliament. And that would sound better for them. But as you just said, the process itself, even of electing parliamentarians, is so flawed and so illegal. And the worst part is, it is the MDC-CCC that have been very eager to participate at this year, parliamentary level, hard-earned seats. And we spoke about this, that this is why the MDC has always participated. And ZANU-PF is now continuing to play the ball with them. And a lot of people do not understand, or they choose not to. We are in serious trouble. And unless we put our acts together, I believe one day, and that one day is coming very soon, where the international community itself is going to say, these guys enjoy the mud. We cannot clean them up. Let them wallow in the mud. And that will be it. Zimbabwe is officially on its own and in the mud and in the filth. That's all I can say.
I'd like to close this program by giving VP Chiwenga the last say. He is being brutally honest here.
Kana zani chitonga ZANU-PF chitonga kusvikira madhonga anenge amera nyanga, kana mutemo wacho futi tinochinja ukaramba achiita nharo, toti ndo watinoda kusvikira amen.
The irony here is, of course, that he does not approve amendment number 3, but only because he sees it as giving Mnangagwa the chance to stay in power beyond what they had agreed in 2017. That Mnangagwa will rule for 5 years, and then you step down. Mnangagwa stayed on for another 5 years. And now with this amendment, he's seeking to extend beyond the 2-term maximum limit. And this is why Chiwenga has been out demanding that this amendment should not go through. But otherwise, people should not make the mistake. Chiwenga believes that ZANU-PF has the divine right to rule until forever. Indeed, if he was to become the ZANU-PF candidate by accident or whatever, he will be pushing for that amendment to go through, because now he will be the one who benefit from it. I would like to reiterate what I said at the beginning of the program, that this amendment is a side issue. if we were able to deal with the real big issue, the root cause of our problem, the failure to hold free, fair, and credible elections, the need to implement the democratic reforms to end the ZANU-PF dictatorship. But that has been ring-fenced. ZANU-PF does not want us to talk about that. The opposition also do not want to talk about it for their own selfish reasons, because they know that the minute they open their mouth on that one, they will be asked, you had the chance to implement the reforms, why did you not? And the truth then will come out that Mugabe had bribed them and that they had sold out. So we are now being forced to discuss a side issue which will resolve nothing in reality. Because as long as ZANU-PF is able to rig the next election, whenever they are going to be held, we will still be stuck with the ZANU-PF dictatorship. Think about it. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.